I woke up not because of the explosion, I woke up of Olya's scream. She was close to the window that broke. This is how the 18th of March began for Dmitro, a citizen of Kiev. That day he was going to stay at home with his wife Olga and daughter Victoria, who was born 2 weeks ago. Suddenly a Russian bomb started blowing up somewhere around. Explosions crushed the wall and broke the windows. Glass fragments launched at Olga. She was feeding her daughter at the moment. Fragments hit my head and I started bleeding. My baby was in blood. At first I didn't understand. I thought it's her blood. Happily, the baby wasn't hurt, only a scratch on the cheek, but her mother, protecting the child from the impact, suffered far more seriously. She had multiple deep cuts on her forehead, over her body about 25 wounds. It was cracked glass, not frags. In his 14 years, Yuri, the citizen of Bucha near Kiev, already saw death. On March 17th, he and his father took bicycles and headed to the town hall of the occupied Bucha to get some aid. But on one of the streets, Russian occupier crossed their way. Dad tried to make a turn. Soldiers started shooting at him. Dad fell down. Then the soldier started shooting at me. Twice hit my hand, and then, when I was on the ground, he tried to shoot my head. Luckily, I was in the hood, so he missed. A Russian soldier opened fire at unarmed civilians. Yuri waited until murderer left and afterwards ran home as fast as he could. He told his mom and grandma about what happened. We took my husband's body to the house where we live. Neighbors helped us to dig a grave, and then we buried my husband. Alla decided to evacuate her family by any means. Right the next day, the humanitarian corridor was opened, but they still had to get to the collection point. We had to get along the street where my husband was murdered, the same block posts. We walked and prayed. I didn't know whether we would survive the next second. Even so, they managed to get away unarmed. Unlike this family from Chernihiv, they decided to evacuate after a month of heavy bombings. Are there shellings? Yes, quite heavy, massive. Scary, horrible. 5-year-old Dima with his parents, sister and her boyfriend left Chernihiv on the 24th of March. On their way to Kiev, they made a stop near the only intact bridge on the highway. All of a sudden, a mine blew a car next to them. Vacuum. I felt a huge shock wave and tried to protect my child. I was shocked, but I didn't feel the pain. Then I asked Dima if he felt the pain, and he said no, despite the injured knee. All family members got wounded. The youngest Dima has injured both legs. Mommy touched my legs and they didn't work. My legs were wounded. And this little patient received an injury after an explosion to his back. The bombing began nearby when the boy was on the playground. He was saved by the fact that he was on the surgery table in 40 minutes. It's hard to say how long the primary recovery will take. I think a month, not less. I never could imagine that I will be seeing crippled child bodies, broken arms and legs, seeing dead children perished from bleeding and who were delivered to the clinic too late. Some of those who were lucky to survive Russian bombings getting well in Kiev y2mate hospital. Children from all over the country are taken here. 13-year-old Sofia arrived from the Mykolaiv region. The girl was under shelling from 5th of March. The frag injured her leg and stuck there. For 3 weeks, doctors tried to take it out and finally did it. They have got it out. Mom saw a photo, told that it's metal.
Ну, он железный.
It's from projectile.
Це осколок от снаряда.
Sonia still complains on headaches, but she already dreams of coming home. However, no one knows when this can happen. The south of Ukraine is devoured by severe fights with Russians. The armed forces of Ukraine are trying to liberate occupied territories as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Russians continue to commit new crimes against humanity. Today, we must also talk about sexual crimes. I have to talk about it because there are so many cases that I can no longer see and read all this. They are raping our children, our underage girls. They are raping our women. Russian skill. The Kremlin media has already openly stated that Ukrainians must be exterminated. It doesn't matter to the occupier whether it's man or a woman, a child or a senior. They have an order to destroy Ukraine. But as always, they deny everything. They once again try to avoid responsibility. They invaded Ukraine, they occupied dozens of towns, and even after the clear evidence of their crimes, they shout, "It's not us." They blame Ukraine for everything, for bombs, murdered and raped children, and Russophobia.